Okay, we should be live. Here, Matt,
We
refresh
are
the page.
live.
Can you hear us, Matty Blue?
Is it on?
Fantastic.
It should be broadcasting through the channel. I switched accounts. Oh, no, wait. Oh, here we go. There we go.
Are we good? Are we up?
Yep, he's going to the live thing. Yep, there I go. I just got up to go check
Okay.
it.
Awesome.
All right.
We are live.
We are go.
We are
And-
go. Can you hear us, Matt?
Yep.
Okay, turn your mics off. Turn your mics off for 1 second. I want to do a mic check. All right, sweet. We're broadcasting.
All right.
We have 4 viewers already.
We have 4 viewers.
Oh,
Jesus.
Wow. I'm so ready.
All right.
I'm so excited.
Welcome, viewers, to the October Country Comics podcast. We hope to do this at least once a week, hopefully. We're gonna be talking mostly about the comic industry, what's going on in current comics, movies, and all the things that are happening in pop culture.
We are not sponsored by Stop and Shop. I didn't have time to change after work. Just putting that out there. But Stop and Shop, if you want to sponsor,
Aw,
we're open to sponsors.
that was a shameful plug.
Super shameful.
Okay. Well, I'm Devin. I work here at October Country Comics.
I'm Will. I don't work at October Country Comics. I work at Stop and Shop, as discussed before.
Oh, I'm Steven. Sup?
Steven's a customer here.
What do
He
you?
kind of just wandered in, and we just felt bad, so we gave him a mic.
Wow.
We gave him a mic. We let him go for it.
Oh, good. We got 8
All right.
viewers. This is awesome.
8 so far. Whoa, we're
So,
breaking
Let's,
we're
so-
breaking records here.
So here, let's talk about one of the biggest topics of discussion today.
Oh,
Actually, the over the last couple of days,
okay.
and
I'm ready.
Let's talk about how DC. We're not going to talk about what the leak is,
Okay.
but
Good, because I don't know it yet.
yeah, that's
Neither
why
do
we're
I.
not going to tell anyone here because we don't know if they're going to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it turns out DC leaked the ending of the Batman 50th issue wedding anniversary, which to much dismay of fans and retailers, it spoiled something that's been getting hyped up for about a year now.
Like you do.
So a big topic of discussion has been, is it okay for them to have leaked the ending to try and, I guess, get more readers, or is it something that they should have waited and just let come out naturally and let everyone discover it on their own?
Here, get the mic a little closer to your face.
A little closer, like that, like
Actually,
too
that
close?
works, yeah, very well.
too close or not
Yeah.
close?
That's close.
It
enough.
would be
That's actually
great. What would
perfect.
be great is if we had mic stands.
All right,
that-
I will bring the mic stands next time. You will get your mic stands, Devin.
Just saying.
That's gonna be like the running joke of this entire thing.
Where are my mic stands?
Like, I can't work under these conditions personally.
So
This is
okay,
our first episode. There will
This
be
is-
kinks.
there will be. Like for example, we had a technical difficulty of about a 10-minute delay before we were able to broadcast. But again, back to the topic at hand. Will, how do you feel about the DC leak to the New York Times?
Wow, DC made an oops. What? What do you expect? I mean, like, I don't understand. I get that they'd want to tell, like, hey, newspapers, we're marrying like Batman and Catwoman. Say something about it. But like, also, here's the ending. So leak it. I don't understand. Maybe this is vindictive or something.
I
I don't
don't-
understand.
I mean, isn't this the same thing Marvel did when they killed off Captain America? Like, they told everyone beforehand.
No, when Captain America came out, because I was working here at
Yeah.
the time. They when Cap died, they put the article out the morning the book came out. So comic book
Oh,
readers who were
okay.
waiting for the book, they came to the store and they came to pick up their book. There were a lot of people calling, asking, "Hey, do you have Cap number 25?" Because they're like, and actually, I remember when it happened. because I was actually in school
Mm.
on the computer, and Marvel.com was actually putting out breaking news as if they were reporting on the event as it was happening. So they're like, oh, someone was shot on the stairs of the courthouse,
Oh my lord!
but they didn't say who it was. So they were
Yes,
doing
Captain
like
America.
breaking news as if it was an actual thing happening. But yeah, no, I feel, I know you're right. Yes, Marvel and DC frequently do things like this. I mean, Marvel did it with the return of Captain America. I mean,
Yeah.
they announced he was coming back months before the book actually even came out. Even the storyline started.
Well, I feel like this whole thing, like, it defeats the purpose of actually enjoying an event.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like,
Yeah, they've always had a problem with, even on the cover of, they had a series called Death of Hawkman. Guess what happens at the end of Death of Hawkman? Like, I hate books that just do that. Like, even the titles page is like the death of blankety blank. Like, what? Why?
listen, I'm still mourning
Well,
the death of Blankety Blank, okay?
blankety blank.
Blankety blank.
Blankety blank.
I don't
Okay.
know.
Blankety
Um,
blank.
but
DC's new superhero.
but no, you know, we had it was weird because now they have a lot of people coming out in front of the DC spoiler, because they have like the New York Times writer is he's saying, well, the way he makes it sound is DC wanted an announcement in the paper about um the wedding, like it was supposed to be like like a normal wedding announcement, like, hey, so and so are getting married, come join the festivities, kind of thing. But I guess they told him the ending, so he was like, as a journalist, I feel it was my duty to tell the readers what they were getting into, so I spoiled the ending. And it was just a very weird, it was a weird explanation as to why this person did this.
I feel like someone should have lost their job over this.
Yeah,
Well-
was DC like, what did you do?
Well, no, they I guess DC had to clear the article first.
Oh, okay, so they knew.
So they knew what was in the article, which makes it even weirder.
People
And
make
it's
my brain
really,
hurt.
huh?
People make my brain hurt
Oh,
with
well,
this nonsense.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's the thing. It's crazy now because we have with social media and everything going on. It's hard to keep anything a secret anymore, especially movies, TV. I mean there's characters who get killed off in shows and people know like a full season before.
Should
Like,
have died with newsprint.
no, yeah.
Oh, you're the worst type of person.
Didn't take us 20 minutes to get there, but we got there.
So the one of the big things they have now, like for example, Doctor Who, one of the biggest things about Doctor Who was always, who the new Doctor was going to be, and back in the 60s and 70s when the show was going on, you didn't know when the Doctor was going to change. You didn't know when the actor was leaving. You didn't even know that that was going to be the storyline. It kind of just happened and everyone was surprised. And now you don't have that. You have everyone leaks behind the scenes footage, or they were shooting like cam videos from a distance because they saw the set. I mean, there is a video online right now of season 2 of The Punisher where
I saw that.
yeah, and it's like it's Frank and I'm not going to say who the villain is, just in case there's people out there who haven't seen the video.
Like me, I haven't seen the video.
Yeah, it's Frank and a very prominent villain having a gunfight in the middle of like Central Park, and fans just put it up, and now people have seen most of the fight.
Didn't they do the same thing with like Shazam, or was that like DC that leaked that?
Shazam just had they were filming by some dude's apartment, and
Okay,
the dude
he
filmed,
it.
and all he did was he just acted like he just lifted a bus, like, or just put the bus down and was like, oh. It's actually kind of funny to watch because it's just him standing next to the bus, and then they yell action and he goes, oh. And that's just the whole scene. and it's great. I'm actually excited for the Shazam movie. Just slightly off topic from that, but yeah, I've never been like a huge fan of people going to these sets and then filming stuff and then just putting it online because that kind of sucks. If it's not giving something away, maybe like secret set photos of like when Age of Ultron was coming out. It's like the new Cap suit. Look at the photos we took of this stunt double who's like jumping off of a truck
Yeah,
that
but
has the A on his thing, but it's for Avengers, and I
well,
thought
let's
that was
see.
cool.
Like
But
the other well, that, but and then like the thing is, like, some of these set photos and set videos that get leaked are they actually make us disappointed when we see the actual movie. I mean, just look at Scott Snyder or Scott Snyder. I mean, I guess it's not real no big
we'll
difference.
get there.
Sk- uh, Zack Snyder,
There you
geez,
go.
Zack Snyder's Man of Steel movie. All the set photos for the original Man of Steel, he was in a bright blue and red suit.
Darker, make it darker.
And for some reason, when we saw the actual movie, all the filters, I mean, his suit was like a glorified, it might as well have been black. I mean, it was so dark blue with all the filters that,
Listen, to this Scott Snyder, everything has to be dark and foreboding. All
Zach.
right?
Zack,
Whatever.
Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I was
about
gonna
the,
say
you
they
know,
both serve no purpose for me anyway.
Nice.
Um,
We're gonna have an episode where we're just talking about the Snyders.
and maybe Devin will do his Scott Snyder.
No,
voice.
we're not. Stop.
Maybe.
Stop.
Maybe he'll see
Stop.
this
We're not.
if we get big enough and he sees this.
I hope so.
And
Yeah.
we can talk about like the videos. Like, oh my god, my favorite. I found out he had a YouTube channel because I think
Stop
a
it.
friend of mine retweeted one of his like tweets, and I went to his Twitter account, and he has a YouTube channel that he promotes there.
That's
and I
so
clicked on it.
awful.
And it's just videos of like him. He's like, how I became a comic book writer and what do I do? And my favorite video is where I get my ideas from. It is
Wikipedia.
literally him filming outside of his bathroom. Like he's standing outside of the bathroom filming the open door, and his son is in the shower. His little kid is in the shower. You can't see him or anything, but you can hear him speaking. Like he's pretending he's like Superman fighting the Joker. I don't remember. So I didn't. I was just flabbergasted at like this is where this man gets his ideas from. It explains a lot, but it explains where he gets his ideas from.
Oh,
The still
hey,
force,
listen,
guys.
listen. Okay, hold on. First off,
Opposite of the speed
Force.
force.
again, like this. Now, listen. I don't get me wrong. I am not a fan of the We're gonna get back on topic here in a minute. I am not a huge fan of Scott Snyder's more recent storylines,
That's an understatement.
but he did have a lot of really great storylines. Black Mirror, for the Detective Comics is probably still one of my favorite runs that he did.
Do you want to
I
grab it off
haven't
the
read
shelf and product?
I
placement
think
it?
we do. We have
we
it.
have it?
Someone grab
we
Black
have-
Mirror.
Is it called Batman
It should be
Black
Detective
Mirror.
Comics.
Is it?
Detective?
No,
Okay,
it's
so it'll be
up
down.
top. Or maybe Batman.
No,
You
because
know what?
Batman's up
Don't
there.
worry about it.
Okay.
That was just
I can
We'll
look for
find
it.
it. We'll
So
find
that-
it and product placement it later.
Look for
Um,
it.
I'll Havana White it.
But that was me waving goodbye to a customer or a friend rather.
Havana White is her name.
Anyway,
Don't you have, like,
so
a-
but no, yeah, Scott Snyder has written some pretty decent storylines. I really liked his original Court of Owls story, Black Mirror, his there, and he has some
Will, don't worry about it.
Gates
I
of
was just
Gotham
gonna
was a
look
great
for it.
story, and he had a really good Swamp Thing run as well.
He wrote Swamp
He
Thing?
did write Swamp Thing. It was a
I
very
did
good.
like his witches though.
I never read that.
I never
I've
read
never,
Witches.
It was a decent horror comic, which is what we're missing.
I've never read good Scott Snyder, so
Okay.
I wouldn't know.
Well, you need to do. There's some learning to be.
Yeah,
done.
we literally
There's
did
some-
just like
we did.
product placement a lot. Of,
Yeah.
Sure.
a
But,
lot of graphic novels.
So, the back at the topic at hand. I mean, the big thing right now is the spoilers for events that DC, Marvel, are putting out. I mean, listen. I mean, I understand wanting to get the news out there and wanting to get the reaction beforehand, but I mean, it's kind of hindering on at least from a retailer standpoint. It gives people a preemptive way to kind of like they either are spoiled so they don't want to read it anymore, um, or they're just so upset with what the spoiler is that they again don't want to read it anymore. Especially something like this, the whole point is reading the issue to the end to find out what happens, and to tell people what happens is kind of it doesn't help anything.
I just want you to know that God forbid Selena and Bruce do not get married. I will ignite like the Dark Phoenix and burn the tri-state area to the ground.
If they X-Men Gold it super hard. What if they X-Men Gold it
Well,
though?
we also don't have
You
people.
can't spoil
We
that.
can't spoil it.
I know
either.
we
It's,
can't.
It's too new.
Matt's monitoring the chat. Is anybody say that they don't want that spoiled?
Are we getting
Okay.
hate mail?
Is anybody saying things in the chat?
Oh God.
All right. Can you not say anything
Oh,
that's
no
in the chat?
sound. Put Matt on. Wow.
There's no sound. Nothing's coming
No,
through.
there's sound.
Okay, I was gonna be like, what, Matt? That was your one job.
Wow,
So-
there really is a delay there, though.
There is.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
If you guys have pertinent questions, we might have stuff at the end. We might have a
Yes.
little segment time if we get past all our topics.
But yeah, so we're that's probably the main that's probably one of the biggest things right now in comic news, was the spoiler of the Batman 50th issue.
Yeah, that's pretty garbo. That's
Garbo?
Garbo.
I like
What's
it.
that?
You should trademark that right now.
garbo. It's trademarked.
You didn't make the T symbol.
This actually does work as like
There
a
we go.
soft trademark because it's on video of you saying it.
Yep,
So unless there's something predating this recorded,
that's me. No one
The-
can argue that. That's all me.
yeah, it's Garbo. Garbo is the
Garbo.
that is Will's new word. That is
I'm
his.
gonna.
It's
when
not
we
really
get-
a catchphrase.
When we get really advanced, I'm gonna have like a button here that makes it say like Garbo, like somewhere on the screen, and have like a little effect there. That's way further down the line. That's if this doesn't turn out to be all for nothing. But we've been juggling.
Wow.
We've been
Wow.
So
I
it's
was gonna say
one
Garbo,
episode,
but-
man. Whoa.
what? No, we've been doing pretty well.
Wow.
We've been juggling like 8 to 10 people this whole time. I'm pretty proud. I'm liking our numbers so far.
That's
That's pretty good for a first episode.
So I mean, the other thing too is right now you have a lot of especially in the comic industry. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of relaunches, a lot of rebranding.
Mhm.
I mean, Marvel.
Marvel's just doing it with the Marvel Legacy stuff. I like
Well,
the
that's
Marvel.
not Marvel Legacy anymore.
Oh,
Yeah.
That was the fall relaunch.
what's the new relaunch?
It's Marvel Fresh Start.
Oh well, Marvel. I like the Marvel Fresh Start though, because it's cool to see that that there's you can start now. You can start with the Marvel stuff now because it works in both ways. Like if you're still collecting Cap, if you're still collecting the Avengers, Iron Man, whatever, it works because the number is still there. Like Marvel has never officially done a Crisis that reboots like everything in terms of like
Story.
restarting the whole universe.
Yeah.
Everything's they'll retcon, but they'll never do a whole like universe reset, time to clean slate, the whole thing. And
Yeah.
and the
I
cool
mean-
thing with that is that now that they're doing that, they're starting everything back at number one. So you can start now, or if you're a collector, you can keep going because it's still technically the same story, but it's a good jumping off point for
Well,
everybody.
the nice thing now about the new Marvel Fresh Start relaunch is that it has the dual numbering. Most of the books that are all relaunching have dual numbering, so it has the current storyline relaunch issue number 1, number 2, but it also has the legacy numbering is what they're calling it. So like even though it's Avengers number 1, it's Avengers 691, which is really cool. It's so far this relaunch is a lot more successful than their previous relaunch last fall, which one of the things that a lot of criticism about it was that you had books where they were promising all the mainstay characters, Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Thor Odin's son, Bruce Banner, were all going to be back as the characters in the main books. which they weren't. They had story arcs that were leading to those characters returning, which
Mhm.
all those story arcs just finished. So now with the new fresh start relaunch, they're giving fans what they've been asking for the last couple of years.
Mhm.
Steve, any input on that? I mean, you're a big X-Men fan. How do you feel about all the X-Men books?
Isn't there a new X-Men book supposed to be, or was it announced? They haven't announced what it was.
No,
or
they announced it, but we can't talk about it right
Yeah.
now because right now is still too early. It happens at the end of X-Men Gold.
I mean,
Oh, so
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah.
you can't
that
really
was
say
the.
there's
I
Yeah.
thought it was a different one. I thought you were
No,
like it's gonna be
no.
uncanny. That's
no.
We haven't had
that's a real
Uh,
letdown. I was kind of looking forward to like a new maybe X-Men team led by like Wolverine now that he's coming back or
because
something.
that's what we need, another Wolverine-based X-Men team, because it hasn't been done.
Well, we
5,000
don't.
times.
No, I'm not saying like have Wolverine be the focal point. I just want a team that I wanted because I haven't had an era where I've
Okay.
jumped in with the classic characters. I mean, Scott's been dead for a little while. I'm
Keep him
fine
that
with.
way.
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't like the character. I don't blame them. He's kind of a
Garbage.
Garbo character.
Garbo. He's
He's
a
a
Garbo.
He's a little bit-
character.
Yep, and
Oh.
he's so I've just wanted personally for myself a book where I can read with the classic characters like Wolverine, Iceman, Gambit, Colossus, which is kind of what they did with X-Men Gold, although it was a little different cuz like they had Old Man Logan when it started, and that was really weird because he kept bringing up the fact that he was from a different universe and old
Yeah,
and gross.
But you know what? X-Men Gold was a little bit more reminiscent of the time period after Jean died. Like that for me is that's what that book was supposed to be.
Mhm.
Like it just felt very
Well,
similar.
which time? Which like when you say
Sore subject.
when you say reminiscent of the time Jean died, are we talking
After Dark Phoenix Saga.
after Dark Phoenix?
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
when
the
they
first
all
time.
Jean really wasn't dead. She was in a cocoon.
yeah, but well that
The
was
cocoon at the
telekinetic
bottom of
energy.
the ocean.
yeah,
But then that
yes.
turned out to be her clone, didn't it?
No.
No,
The
no, no,
clone.
no.
Oh, the clone was the one that
Was,
died.
no, was Matt? No.
Maddie, well, she dies.
Okay,
but
that's a whole. That's a
that's a whole
other
ballgame.
Let's not get there.
Listen,
Let's
if we
not.
want to do an episode about the history of the X-Men, that's like
I'm
that's
so
like a
game.
4-hour
I'm
podcast.
so
Oh
game.
my
That's like a 4-hour.
god.
It's
But-
way
That is
convoluted.
not one to be live.
But to get back on topic and just talk about what Devin was talking about, giving the fans what they want. Jean Grey finally has an X-Men team, and it's written by Tom Taylor, and the man is just
Which one's
delightful.
that?
Every X-Men
X-Men
Red.
Red.
Oh, that's red.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's delightful.
Do you think
and
Wolverine will hop on that team if he does hop on a
No,
team?
because there's two Wolverine-esque characters.
Oh, who's on that team?
You have
Dakin and Jimmy Hudson.
no
Jimmy
X-Men
Hudson's on
Red?
blue.
Oh no, yeah, that's
no,
right. That's
Red
right.
is
Red is Dakin and Laura, right?
No, Red is Laura and Honey Badger. Dakin's
Okay.
not on that, and if
just
he
get
is,
rid of Laura and
you
whoever
could get out
whoever
of this
Honey
room right now.
Badger.
You leave Laura
Oh, that's right. Because
alone.
okay,
Yeah,
no,
but not over Wolverine.
Blue has Dakin.
Blue
and
is
Jimmy
Dakin and
Hudson.
Jimmy Hudson, which yeah, we have way too many too many Wolverine characters.
There's a literal
No such
book.
thing. Stop.
There's a
Stop.
literal book about them, all the Wolverine characters that hate him, looking for him. What are you
I'm
signaling?
talking to Steve about something.
Oh.
Do you want me to turn the gain of your mics down so
Oh.
they can't hear it?
No, it's fine. I just said he just has to take care of something.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Let me kill that.
Shh.
Oh,
Don't
all right.
don't kill Matt. He's our tech guy right now.
He's our tech guy.
He's
Thank
our
you to
tech guy.
Matt.
He's
Matt.
he's
Matt,
making sure
everybody.
everything is going
I love Matt.
smoothly.
Okay. All right. Now that Steven.
Well, which one?
Okay, we're good.
Well, Steve's the one on the end, right?
Steve's this one. Or yeah, Steve's this one.
No, yours has been working.
Yeah, mine's
we just
this one.
need your.
Everybody's working.
Okay.
That'd suck. I'd be mad at you the most. If Steve's mic wasn't working this whole time, I would leap over to this table and this would turn into a completely different podcast.
All right. Well, here you go. So we have. So that's the current state of Marvel. You know, we have a lot of the major relaunches. They're cleaning up a lot of different corners of Marvel right now. All of their mainstay books have relaunched for the summer. and I think we're going to get a lot of the secondary cleanup over the fall and into the new year. What?
With the old and with the
Just
new.
adding into what you said, you're talking about cleanup and all that jazz. How do you feel about Death of Inhumans?
Well, that comes out tomorrow.
Okay.
Who
so
cares?
Genuinely curious, like where you're at with that.
I don't know. I'm curious to see what they do. I think that Marvel's tried really hard to get the Inhumans out in the forefront of the Marvel universe.
And it was a good try. It was a good attempt.
I think that
Was it, though?
no. Actually,
No, it got canceled after like what? The pilot? Did they even air
No,
the
they
pilot?
gave
about
it-
the show. We're talking about the comics.
Number
man.
one, the
I
show
know,
did
but
get
that
a
was
full
their
season.
attempt into the forefront. Because in the comics,
Well,
who
no, the
cares?
comics for a while now have been trying to bring him into the forefront. Have had multiple series.
And I believe the show did get a full season.
I know
Got-
the
it got
show
like a- it
definitely
got
did
like-
not
I
get
thought
a
it
full season.
It got
did.
8 episodes.
That's a
It
full
got a
season.
couple
No, it's not. It
for
was a
like maybe
mid-season-
a
it was
Netflix
mid-season
show that has like
replacement.
2-hour episodes.
But the yeah, the Inhuman. The way I feel about the Inhumans is I like the characters. I think so far, I think what you have to have honestly is a book called The Inhumans, and their last iterations were you had a solo Black Bolt book, and you had the Royals, which was the royal family, going out into space to find the truth about their heritage, which.
Was that like
I'm
Inhuman?
sorry. I
was that
I
like
wasn't
in-
mocking you. I was like, yeah.
Was that
I was
like
reinforcing. I have nothing to input
Okay,
on a
okay,
topic
all
about
right.
Inhumans.
Wait,
I'm
wait,
sorry.
Was that like Inhuman Power?
Inhuman
like
Power.
Wakandan Forever?
Inhumans forever.
I-
Here we go.
I can't.
Anyway,
What
the
is happening?
so the Inhumans books, that's the biggest thing that's been lacking right now is a book called The Inhumans. And it's you have to have the entire cast together. You have to have Black Bolt, Medusa, Karnak, and the rest of the
Crystal.
royal family to get Crystal.
I was gonna say.
Even
Your wife
Black
is on
Bolt's,
the Avengers. Or
even
the Inhumans.
Yes, my-
No. Yes,
yeah,
his wife is
my
an
wife's on-
Inhuman.
Your wife is an
Um,
Inhuman.
the
A little bit louder. All right, hold it a little bit closer to your face.
closer,
Mhm.
good.
Yeah, because I can't go much further up with the gain.
Okay. Well, so anyway, again, like I said, you need to have the
Man.
cast that everyone wants. You can't have a lot of side characters trying to hold down a book without the full royal family.
He needs to talk to you.
Are we good with Devin's mic? There we go.
So we have so now you have the Death of the Inhumans, which is as of right now, as it stands, it's the Kree, because the Kree created the Inhumans thousands and thousands of years ago. So now you have the Kree is sending their essentially their John Wick after the Inhumans of Earth. So he's there to kill all the Inhumans, not just the royal family, because the Kree view the Inhumans as a mistake that has to go away. So now you have what's left of the royal family, what's left of the Inhumans, trying to survive, and we'll see what happens at the end of this. The writer of that series is Donny Cates. He's done some pretty he's done some other shakeups recently.
Cosmic Punisher, Ghost Rider,
Yes,
all meshed into one.
So
Oh my.
That's been interesting.
Oh my.
So and he promises that this title isn't a feint. This isn't,
And today, actually, I think I read it on Newsarama. He actually apologized to Inhuman fans ahead of time.
Yes. He
So-
said
All
he
three of you.
apologized, He apologized.
Yeah, he literally apologizes. ahead of
Okay,
time.
I'm done. I'm sorry.
What did you
I'm sorry.
say?
Wow.
Wait,
I
what
said
did you
all
say?
three of you.
You haven't even read Marvel. Like you're like a Marvel newbie.
What?
You just started reading Marvel. You bash the
No.
Inhumans. How dare you?
What? I'm
How
just
dare you.
no, I'm not I'm not bashing them because they're bad. I'm bashing them because no one reads
And
it.
listen, okay, how dare you insult those Inhumans fans saying there's only 3? There's 5.
There's 5 of them. minimum.
No, there's not.
Minimum.
There's a lot of Inhumans fans. Okay, I'm one
I'm
of
sure.
them.
I'm sorry if
There's
I
a-
insulted any of you
I-
Inhuman
I
fans out
do
there.
also just want to say,
The
if
chat's probably going nuts with a bunch of people
I
just
hope so.
Inhumans forever,
I
just
can't,
to just
I
to
can't, I
screw me
can't.
up. I can't really see the chat.
I do want to say though, however, that Black Bolt book was beautiful.
Oh,
like
yeah.
just thumb
Art-wise
through it
or
because
just
Oh, the writer.
the writer was
amazing.
really good, but the artist on that book, Will, it for me, it's unlike anything that was done. Like it's so pretty and
Yeah. Well, that's
so
like-
good.
That's the other thing too. Is so you know that so that's the state of that right now. We have I think the Inhumans, the Inhumans corner of of the universe is getting cleaned up. You're gonna have a lot of things getting reassessed in the X-Men corner of the universe with the X-Men from the past, with the current X-Men.
Ship them home.
Put them back, Jesus.
Um,
I think we share
are
opinions.
you asking Jesus to do it, or are
Yeah.
you just kind of?
I'm hoping
Is this
Jesus
like-
come on down, slap it back. That's okay.
Is this
I
like
can't.
a Jesus take the wheel moment
I
for you, Will?
I can't explain to
Take
you
it from
how
my
mad I
hand.
was that they were. At least they finally accepted it. They're like, we're not going to put them back, so we're just going to say that time fixed itself so that it still works.
Well, now
It shouldn't.
Well, that's the thing. Well, who's writing it? Is it Rosenberg or Breeson's writing?
Breeson is
Breeson.
writing
I
extermination.
think
or-
I think that's how you say his name, but don't.
Ed
quote
is
us.
his first name, so
Ed-
just
yeah,
call him
Ed.
Eddie. Let's just call him Eddie.
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 That
Eddie.
whole
We don't
storyline.
know. We don't know him on a personal level. I don't know. If we
Maybe
can
you
call him-
don't.
Good old Ed.
Yeah. You just roll into conventions and hang out with your buddy Eddie. Is that
I
what you
do.
That X-Men Blue book. I think my buddy Ed's writing that.
That was
If
Cullen
anyone,
Bunn.
if anyone
Oh.
can fact check this for us, Steve says he rolls into conventions and hangs out with Eddie Breeson.
Your mic needs to be
Um,
closer to you.
And so we need someone to fact check that. Contact Ed Breeson, find out if he knows Steve from October Country Comics.
We're best friends.
Your best
Okay.
friends. Okay. All
Very
right.
much
October
like me
Country
and Taylor
Podcast.
Moore.
The
Or
October Country Comics
Taylor
podcast.
Moore.
So yes,
Matt,
that's
if anybody says so, just let us know. He's gonna
Yeah.
know. He's gonna
yeah.
I'm
he's
super
gonna hear that.
We
in a
really
couple-
want
He's gonna hear that in a couple of seconds.
So yes. So that's what's going on in Marvel. The relaunch is going really well. A lot of people are really happy with it. A lot of new readers. This gentleman, for instance, he's a big, solid DC guy, Flash, Green Arrow all the way, and he's snatching up
Flash
Avengers.
has been
And
pretty bad, though. I'll admit that.
Well, we're not talking about DC.
we're not
yet.
talking about DC.
I know.
yet.
I know.
We're not
I know,
there
I know.
yet.
I just wanna
Wait,
put
how
that
much
out
time
there,
did
just
we
the
give
reason.
Marvel? We have to equally give that much time to DC.
Yeah,
we
we're
had
gonna-
a lot. We had like 20 minutes of DC. I think it's been
Okay.
10. I mean, it's good to wrap it up so that we have time for other stuff.
Well, yeah, that's
but,
what. Well, yes, that's
like,
the,
yeah.
we're-
I'm reading. I've been reading the recent Avengers stuff, which is really good. I'd recommend checking that out. It's a good starting off point. I think it's good for. I think it's what they should have done. What they're doing now is what they should have done when the MCU started and the steam started to pick up, maybe after the Avengers 1 came out, because of the fact that now they're just getting to the point where, like, oh, maybe we should start mirroring the MCU because all these people are going to want to get comic books. They did something similar when Civil War came out. They made Civil War 2. They made Civil War 2. The problem with that is
that's a whole
it
other
shared
bag of
a-
issues.
yeah, it's just I'm just saying it shared the title, kind of. It was a sequel to the comic books, which wasn't really remotely related to the actual movie, and even then,
Well, yeah,
like
but
it
that's
was
only-
a worse.
They
book.
had to call it. They had to call it Civil War 2 because you couldn't call it Minority Report. That was already taken.
Well, so, so
But
my
what about
question-
Minority Report 2?
my question? I think they actually did that. I think it was a directed DVD.
No, they did a show. I thought, didn't they?
I know
They
I
did the
think
show.
a sequel. Anyway, my question is, do you think that they just like they had that event created, Civil War 2, and they were like, we need a name for it. Oh, Captain America Civil War is coming out. Let's just call it a sequel to that. Do you think that that's what that was?
I
No,
don't.
I think it was supposed to be.
I think
a
it
Civil
was-
War because they wanted. If they were going to do an event like that, Heroes versus Heroes, they were definitely going to call it Civil War 2.
Well, yeah, I
And
think,
it's
but
definitely you could tell like it was unless We're back. Okay, we're back.
All right,
We're back. All right, I'm gonna have to let you go. All right.
Technical difficulties.
Okay.
Technical.
Did Lennon
All right. All right. He says it's back. All right. I'm gonna have to let you go. Bye bye.
All right,
I'll
all
ask
right,
you a
we're
question.
back. We had technical difficulties.
All right. Hold on. All right. We were experiencing difficulties. No, there's nothing wrong with the chat. However, I did receive a phone call from someone who wanted to ask a very pertinent question.
Okay, what's the question?
It is pertaining to the X-Men Gold event. So if you haven't seen the X-Men Gold event, turn it off for a couple of minutes. It's fine, unless you don't care about spoilers, whatever. Just like give us 5 minutes to talk about this.
Why don't we?
But you should have gotten it
can
by
we
now.
talk
The
about
X-Men Gold
code?
event.
No,
Can
you
we
know
talk-
What? Have them take out their headphones or mute it, and then thumbs up.
Yeah, we'll give you a thumbs up. Just mute it for a little bit. We'll give you a thumbs up
Yeah.
when we're done, unless you don't care about spoilers or you've already read it. Should have picked it up by now. But
It has
other
been
than
out
that,
for like
so
3 weeks.
cut your
for 2
cut your
weeks.
headphones out now.
It's only 2.
If you
Okay,
haven't read
all
it.
right.
All right. So the
Yes,
question
that's
is
what we want to do. We want to tell
from
viewers
our-
to stop listening to us.
from
But go
our
on.
I'm just saying if you haven't. If you did, just
All
get
right.
it.
Okay. Anyway,
Okay.
go on.
So the
what we
question
got?
from our anonymous viewer is what are your opinions about how the X-Men Gold comic ripped off an episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Apparently there is an episode where 2 characters are going to get married for the entire episode, and then 2 separate characters get married at the end. And that is an exact plot from
Yeah,
a
I know
episode of
what they're
Fresh Prince
talking
of
about.
Bel-Air.
That was when he was getting married to Lisa.
Was that Tyra Banks' character?
Is that the one
Yeah.
where he was just getting married?
No,
to
was
her
that
so
Tyra
they
Banks?
could,
I
like,
don't remember.
Yeah, he got married. Remember, because he got
Yeah.
shot and he proposed to her.
Was that in college?
Yeah, it was the second to last season.
Yeah, that was
And the-
Tyra then. He was
Yeah,
Tyra
So
Banks,
he was
I
gonna.
think.
Yeah, so he.
I don't really know.
So they decided not to get married at the end, and then his dad or her dad and his mom wind up getting married. I mean that's. You can say that there's very similar, but I mean, how many countless soap operas have used the same trope, Steve?
You leave my daytime television alone.
Oh, I'm being serious. I mean, it's not like it's a new
No.
thing. It's not.
No,
like,
I mean
it's not like Fresh Prince was the one show that did that.
Well, I mean, for Christ's sake, you had a Julia Roberts and Richard Gere movie called The Runaway Bride.
yeah.
Literally same kind of concept.
And she
Mhm.
ran out of how many weddings?
I don't remember.
I would
hated
imagine
that.
if the movie is
hated that
Runaway
movie.
Bride, she ran out of several.
Yes, several.
I hated that
but
movie.
that's the. I mean, listen, I is it annoying that that's what happened? Sure. I mean,
Are you
And-
dissatisfied with the ending?
no. Actually, I like the ending better than what they were actually going to do.
Um,
I love the characters that got married. They've been longtime favorites of mine since I was a kid. I mean, they were 2 of my favorite characters from the show.
Yeah,
Steven.
I love Gambit.
I have so many mixed feelings about it.
I'm like
What?
trying to talk in code so people other people don't know.
I said we have a thing. If they didn't,
Yeah,
it's their
anyway.
fault at this point.
I have so many mixed feelings because I feel like for 30 issues, right? 30?
Yeah.
You've built up the relationship between Kitty and Colossus. When I think I would have maybe enjoyed the 2 characters that did get married, because I'm gonna keep that semi-anonymous nonsense there.
All right.
Maybe build them up again. And more than in just a Kelly Thompson 5-6 issue mini.
Yeah, it was a five issue.
Yeah.
It was 5 issue.
But like that was my biggest problem with it, because it took away all that Gold kind of did that was fun. That was like my biggest issue, because you're sitting there and the whole thing leads up to them getting married, and then to be fair, I will give Kitty her credit, phasing through the floor and phasing where the ring couldn't be put on her finger. That was kind of a cool way to leave someone at the altar.
That was. It
I
was
kind of
pretty
loved
intense.
It made
She's
me
kind of-
happy.
I can't say any word to describe her that would be allowed on this podcast, this live broadcast. But it was a
family store.
Oh, good.
family podcast. I know.
I've just not been swearing because we're like recording. I'm really happy that was a rule that no one told me about.
Yeah, I know.
I was like so close to letting so many things slip.
Oh no,
like,
I've been there.
Not.
Half of my material has gone out the window.
Yeah.
Like that's why I've been so quiet at some points, because I'm like, here I can speak. No, that's a word I can't say.
Anyway, so the long and short of it is, no, I'm not disappointed with the ending. I don't think it's a ripoff of the Fresh Prince or any other
Runaway Bride.
It's
character.
just a common trope that
happens.
It's happened before and it'll happen again.
I mean, it happened to me at least 6 times in the last year.
Oh, that's
you
rough.
You gotta stop falling for the sugar daddies. That's the problem.
But they buy me things.
Yeah, I know. But
weigh pros and cons, Steven. Don't just jump into something with some man that offers you things.
And they're doctors.
They're doctors. Okay, no more.
Just because they say that on their Tinder profile does not mean that they're real doctors.
We don't know.
Grinder.
Stop talking. No more of the apps. Okay.
So let's
plugging.
let's actually go back into DC then.
Okay, so so now switching gears to DC.
Back to DC.
No,
we were on Marvel.
Yeah, we were ending Marvel.
Well, we technically started,
and then we died.
We did start with Marvel though, we did start with DC.
We started with DC. We started the Batman thing. We started. We talked about the wedding already.
That was just about what was going on in the news. Like
okay.
Okay. So DC in general.
DC in general right now. The last 2 years has been really fantastic storytelling, art. They've been spot on. And now a lot of things are switching gears again. We have a lot of things that are kind of being held up because of Doomsday Clock. Doomsday Clock's their big event. It technically takes place a year ahead of what's going on currently in DC. So I'm not sure if they're kind of like having a lot of writers meandering about with their storylines because of what's going on in Doomsday Clock. But I'm not entirely sure. But there's a lot of books that seem like they should be tied more into it that haven't been. Will, you're big on a lot of the DC stuff. Could you?
Yeah, I read a lot of DC books now, mainly because I pick up a lot of the books that are supposed to be like tied in with this, like Action and Batman, because Action had the whole Mr. Oz storyline. If you haven't, like, the Mr. Oz storyline is basically old news at this point. So if you don't know,
played with that too.
Yeah.
Detective kind of played with that with Tim Drake, because Tim Drake didn't really die. He was abducted by Mr. Oz, who turned out to be Superman's dad, and who's shown up in the Man of Steel arc. I won't spoil that, but he's there. That's his whole, in the Man of Steel arc, that's like a key point. That's a key. His showing up is alluding to whatever happened between Clark and Lois, and why she's called his estranged wife. But that hasn't been revealed and will be revealed, and hopefully in this last issue of Man of Steel. What
is Bendis doing?
I have no idea. They introduced a new fireman character, this fire chief character, who's kind of like a love interest for Superman. Because at the end of the first issue, she's like, he's hot, and he's like, ha. Well, and it's very clear what he's trying to do there.
The big thing with my feelings with a lot of DC stuff right now is that they seem to have a really big plan with Rebirth. Rebirth is going really well.
Still is.
You can only rebirth for so long.
And then you have Bendis coming in, and he's kind of taking over all the Superman stuff, which, I mean, it sounds exciting. It sounded exciting at the time. So far, I haven't seen anything overly, that's overly wowed me. Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been anything. You're expecting this. He starts it off with a 6-issue mini that's kind of supposed to be the spotlight of what his story is going to be, and we kind of have. It just seems like he's taken 6 issues to tell 1 issue's worth of story.
Oh yeah,
this could have been like one big 48-page special. And it just seems like it's taking longer than it should. And it's like, back in the day when they did Crisis on Infinite Earths, and you had everyone re-gear everything. You had, I believe it was John Byrne who he did his Man of Steel mini, which started off and kind of like it really reinvented the character. And I feel like Bendis is trying to reinvent the character in a way that like for him to write it his way. But we just reinvented the character. We spent the first year of Rebirth figuring out
Superman.
Because he's the pre-crisis Superman and whatever, but then they combine him and it gets really weird.
He's post-crisis.
Yeah,
he's
post
pre-52. He's pre-52 Superman.
Yeah, he's post-crisis Superman. Yeah,
and that's the big thing. I mean, it's just a matter of time. I mean, there's been a lot of rumblings in the industry that when Doomsday Clock finishes sometime next year.
God, is it really next year?
Yeah. Didn't you say they were doing now? It's bi-monthly instead of monthly.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was already bi-monthly before.
Well, in case,
no, it was supposed to be monthly.
So there's a lot of rumblings now that when Doomsday Clock finishes, that we're gonna do the next crisis / relaunch / reset. So we've had we've had New 52, then we had the Convergence reset. Now we had Rebirth, which Rebirth was very successful. But the everything okay, Matt?
Yeah,
it's just the chat.
Oh, it's the chat. All right.
Okay.
But yeah.
So
what are they saying? Some weird things?
Yeah.
Okay, they're doing that. Don't pay attention to that. That's stupid. But
so anyway,
yeah.
So that's my thing is that I really hope they don't turn around and do another reset. We don't need it. I mean, that's always been the fallback on most of DC's.
Instead of hashing it out, let's just
reboot it completely. Let's retool everything, remake all the characters, make all the characters really young. No marriages.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Except for the one marriage we're cool with because it's kind of like they pretty much have to be married at this point because they have a kid that we're not going to get rid of.
For New 52, what was it? Like no one was allowed a happy ending.
Yeah, I think because that was like the really dark age of comics. But with the
Selena and Bruce just
with the reboots and everything
things together,
I kind of wanted them to go back to one. I wanted them to either stick with Rebirth until the end of Doomsday Clock or start with one when they rebranded it to be DC Universe, because now there's a lot of people that are going to come into these stores and they're going to see two different things. They're going to see Rebirth and they're going to see DC Universe. Like you can tell because there's going to be a cutoff point where it morphs into DC Universe. But if you're gonna rebrand the book, don't do it in the middle of a storyline or in the middle of
that's
the title itself, but that's just nitpicky for me. As of course for the storylines of DC, I've read some good books and I've read some bad books and then I've read some really bad books.
I mean, to your point though, I mean that's the problem. I mean that's probably one of the biggest problems with DC. I mean look what they did when New 52 happened. New 52, like 3 years in, they decided we're going to do Convergence and we're going to call it DCU. Like they completely dropped New 52 and just call it, and they wanted it to be, it's the DC universe. It's all about our readers, and they didn't do anything that the readers wanted. I mean, we had a lot of weird stuff happening in the DC comics. I mean, you had Batman. Well, it wasn't even Batman. It was Commissioner Gordon was running around in
Robo-Bat.
It was
Robo-Bat.
Yeah, but it looked like a giant bunny suit. I mean, it was weird. It was like a cross between a bunny and the Tick costume.
It totally was the Tick costume. Oh my god!
But you had stuff. I mean, Green Arrow was a werewolf. I think you had.
What?
Oh yeah,
I missed. That.
No, I wasn't reading at that point.
I jumped off of Green Arrow after Lemire pieced out.
Yeah,
Jesus.
I mean, and God only knows what because editorial was like, do whatever you want because the way we're gonna run the series now is, hey, when Scott Snyder's done writing his Batman, the next writer can take over and write a story about Alfred was Batman, and it's all canon because there's no continuity. And that
At this point, yeah.
and that completely backfired, which is what happened when they just made Jeff Johns's Dark Side War the catalyst that rebooted the universe, essentially.
And that's
to Rebirth.
That's cool. Well, Rebirth eventually, because you said the DCU was supposed to be like a rebirth, this is for the fans, this is what the fans want. It wasn't, and that I think wasn't that also supposed to be what Rebirth was? And Rebirth actually kind of was,
Rebirth was,
and it worked a little better, even though they now they do the mistake of referencing things that have never happened.
Well, that's the thing. Now they're trying to incorporate everything, and they want to make everything work, and they're still trying to figure out what they want in continuity and what they don't want. But now they have like an excuse because Dr. Manhattan is supposedly messing around with everything. So now we can just say, oh, well, the reason why Batman remembers
blankety blank.
Yeah, the reason why Batman remembers having the Justice League International team with Booster Gold and Ted Kord as Blue
Beetle. that happened in New 52. That was a thing that they had an international series in New 52, and that New 52 is all canon for them.
But that was a separate thing. I mean, Batman was one of the original members of the JLI back in the late 80s, early 90s, and that was when Booster Gold and Ted Kord really became a big thing. And you had
nobody really cared about them at the time, right?
No, that book lasted a long while.
Yeah, it did. I have a lot of issues for that.
So what happened was, so now you have these things where Batman's remembering his time with that group, but then he also remembers what's going on now, like what just recently happened. So you have characters remembering multiple timelines, and there's no real explanation except for, oh, it's Dr. Manhattan, or it's the Flash.
Wally's having in the Flash. That's the one good thing I've liked about the Flash thus far. I bought Titans to mainly, I like the characters of the Titans, but I also bought it to get what Wally's side of the story is. And if you're looking for that, don't get Titans. It doesn't bring it up a lot. It's just like, oh, we remember you, but do we remember this part about you? Do we remember this? Flash War right now is really dealing with that, where it's Wally's memories are like what is he going to remember, and where are the memories all coming from? And they're dealing with right now. He just found out his kids are about his kids. Yeah. Zoom, what was it, Zolomon? Or no, Zolomon's
Hunter Zolomon.
Yeah, Hunter Zolomon was just like, hey, remember? Yeah, he's like, he reminded him of Jay and of his twins and Impulse. All of them. He claimed all of them were in the Speed Force. They're not, because he just figured it like they broke the Speed Force, and it turned out to be Hunter Zolomon's thing, but like Wally remembers them, and Wally just found out about Batman and Flash knowing like half of everything and not telling anybody, because he was like, what, why, what? Because he finds out, because Flash was like, Wally's like, why are you doing this? People are missing. And Barry's like, I know. And Wally goes, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, Batman and I, we've been working on it, trust me. And Wally's like, this is the focal point for why I'm back. Why out of anybody in the universe would you exclude me? Like, I'm experiencing physical and mental trauma because of the cause of this.
Because Barry, he is the Speed Force. He can do whatever he wants, I guess.
Is he the still?
But he wants to be the one and only Flash. We'll get there. We'll get there later episode. But
anyway,
yeah.
So I mean, that's again, you have DC. DC is kind of. It almost feels right now they don't. Certain characters they know where they're still going with. I mean, the Tom King has still got a long run of Batman that he wants to complete. He said, from what he's saying, it's got at least another 2 to 3 years. So he has a whole story he has planned out. Flash is still dealing with.
Flash is on the Flash War. It's in like the focal point of the Flash War right now, and it's the best Flash thing I've read thus far from the start of like Flash when it was Flash Rebirth when it came out, because I'm gonna recommend, if you want to pick up Flash, just start with Flash War, because it's mostly just Barry going, I want to be the only Flash because now there's so many other Flashes and I want to do my job. No one else can do my job, even though there's like 10 other people on the planet with the exact same power set, driven from the exact same force as me. Like, they all show up in the last event when he's fighting Grodd. The cop, the new speedster villain they just introduced in this new continuity. What's his name?
Godspeed.
Godspeed. The Chinese Flash.
No idea.
Little new Wally West. Old Wally West. They all show up and they all get.
What's the girl's name? The one.
The Chinese Flash.
Well,
or no,
his partner.
No, the other
The
one.
girl
Yeah.
from
Yeah, but
Void?
but she turned out to be a villain.
Of course.
She turned out to be working for Grodd the whole time.
Oh,
hold on
alright,
though.
alright.
Number one, for the rest of the night after this podcast, you're gonna talk to me like you did, like just you're not allowed to speak unless you're doing that voice.
What voice?
That
Your
like
Barry
your
wants to
voice.
be the only
But
Flash.
you can only do that like after this is over.
Steven, can you pass me a piece of pizza?
Oh, I don't even know what that was. And
Alright,
my second though
anyway.
is you said start with Flash War. Wouldn't you want to start with the Button? That way you can then start reading.
Well,
Doomsday
Button
Clock?
was kind of a
Button's
was
more
the
of a-
Flash Batman. Like that's
Okay.
a whole event in and of itself.
Yeah, that's
But
more
if you
dealing with
want to read a Flash book, like
Okay.
Flash
Yeah.
War, there's no other book that
The-
ties in with Flash War. It is his own
Okay.
series.
Yeah.
So Flash War is just a good storyline to pick up with.
the Button is more if you're just looking to focus on the bigger mystery of Rebirth, which is a lot of Dr. Manhattan stuff tying in with Doomsday Clock. You
And-
want to read the DC Rebirth special, then the Button, and then you want to do Doomsday Clock. As of right now, that seems to be the trilogy of story.
Okay.
Yeah, they're and
Um,
also what even happens in the Button? They're just like Reverse Flash dies.
Yeah, but you get a really lovely moment with
That's
Thomas.
it.
Why?
You get a really lovely moment though with
well, yeah, with
excuse me,
Bruce's-
Thomas and
yeah, with
Bruce.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
you
yeah,
couldn't have
that.
had if that did not happen.
Oh, yeah.
Not at all. No, I think that was nice, but if there's nothing really like like, oh wow, that's a secret now told to us. There's nothing like. It's just like you see Batman meeting Flashpoint Batman and that stuff, and you get like a hinting. I think at the end you get to see his hand,
We actually have like a legitimate question.
Manhattan's hand. All right, we're taking audience questions now.
Why can't they just go back to the old comics and not have all this extra drama?
In terms of who's that from?
It doesn't tell.
It's Diver 633.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay.
Why can't they go back to the old comics? Well, they've already renewed it. I mean, they might with the Doomsday Clock.
I mean, we don't
with
know.
the new
The
stuff.
thing is that it's hard to just go back to the old comics because
The old comics Superman made up powers at will.
No,
I mean,
no,
that's
like
that's super
telepathy.
old.
Well, no,
That's
we're-
super old. But he could make the smaller him out of his hand,
yeah,
and
but
the emblem
there-
came out.
yeah, but I don't think that's not what we're talking about.
No.
Oh no, not at all.
We're talking about like going back to when it was just just telling good like villains versus hero stories, and I think one of the biggest problems is that, and it's the same problem you face with DC every time they try to do a reboot. They want to just do a clean slate, but there's so much history and so much story that people are like, well, I really like that story, and that's my favorite Batman story, and you just said it doesn't exist, so now I don't care. So you have a lot of that. It's hard to do a clean slate and to go back to basics when you have a lot of readers who have been in. I mean, you have readers who have been around for so long. Just look at like. If you're in our demographic, I mean, we've been reading comics for 20 years, whereas there's other people who've been reading comics for 70 years, and it's,
They want something new. There's a pro and con to starting comics now. One is that everything's starting up again, so it's really good to get on it now. There's new storylines, fresh stuff. The problem is they've done everything already. They're kind of just running out of stuff to do now.
My question for the question, like, what point are you talking about though when it comes to drama? Because for me, when I think of drama, and I'm going to use Marvel and DC, Claremont came in, X-Men had a little bit of a soap opera element to it.
Mhm.
Perez and Wolfman came in for Titans and gave the same kind of soap opera-esque feel to it, where that brought in the drama. So, like, are we talking about pre these creators? Or are we talking, like, I'm just confused about that question a little bit.
All right.
About
yeah,
like
you'll
what
have to-
drama, what, like, yeah. So, like, if you're still listening, I would like to know what kind of drama are you talking about?
Yeah, Matt. Whenever they answer, just
Yeah.
let us know.
So if they answer my question, let me know.
I think I recognize that name too. I know. I
Well-
think I know who that is. It's a family member of mine.
Is that
So-
interesting?
Yes, actually.
Way to blow their cover there.
Oh my
Will.
god, so much for like being anonymous.
I didn't say who.
Wow.
Oh my
yeah.
god, it's totally
Okay, we'll go back to anonymous questions. I don't care.
Anyway, so we've talked a little bit about Marvel and DC. So I mean the next thing to really talk about is the indie section of the comic book industry, which you have a lot of big indie companies. You've got Dark Horse, Image, Dynamite, Boom Studios, Valiant Comics.
I was gonna say, if you didn't like list them soon, I was just gonna smack you and be like, everyone that loves you at Valiant hates you now.
No, I could never. I was
like, wow.
Wow, no, I'm obviously gonna mention Valiant.
Did you
I saved
tell
the
all your
best for
Valiant
last.
friends?
Come
There you
on,
go.
man.
Did you
So-
tell all your Valiant friends about this?
I shared everything. I put it out there. On the
I
social-
tweeted it. I did the tweeters.
Oh,
We did
God.
it's not
The
like it's
fact
a
book.
secret. But yeah,
Secret
no,
podcast.
but I feel like you're gonna have, for people who are looking to read really good stories and just not have to deal with just a lot of the extraneous like reboot or relaunch or new number one stuff. The indie comics are they're more prominent now than they were. You have what?
No, I was gonna say they're also like self-contained stories, because how much of like what Image puts out is like a 12-issue run and then it's done.
Well, I mean,
Mhm.
not everything. I mean,
No,
there's
but
a
I
lot
mean,
of
like
wrong
there
ones.
are.
Yeah, but I mean that's the thing. You're looking at a lot of stuff. There's a lot of great creators. I mean, there's a lot of great creators who are getting tapped by Marvel and DC now because of the indie runs that they've
Mhm.
done. But you also have a lot of things that especially if you're looking for shared universe stuff. One of the best ones out there right now is the Black Hammerverse, which is done by Jeff Lemire. He started it off with Black Hammer, which is it's an interesting take on like Golden Age style heroes, and they're trapped in this other dimensional world, and they've kind of been stuck there trying to figure out how to get out, and it's been kind of cool. But he's also done other minis that are connected to the universe, so it gives you different aspects, and it gives you the shared universe feel you get from Marvel or DC. And another really good company that does the shared universe is Valiant Comics. You have so many different books that they do a good job of keeping a very small, tight line of books, so there isn't a lot of continuity error. Steve, you read a good amount of them too. So I mean, what's your take on?
I do, and you're getting Marvel and DC storylines and quality of writing without. I'm gonna lead more towards editorial nonsense that you don't need. It's just they're just telling good stories that are fun. Everything looks
Well,
great.
yeah, and there you go. I mean, that's the other thing too. You don't have a lot of the marketing guys. You don't have a lot of the shareholders
Yeah.
going, "Hey, we really like. It's real great that you have that original story where Dick Grayson is Batman, but we really want Bruce back in
Mhm.
because Bruce sells toys." It's like, well, you know what? At the end of the day, Batman sells toys. So in the comics, I mean, if Dick Grayson's Batman or Jason Todd's Batman, it doesn't. As long as it's Batman.
And
So you have a lot of those guys interfering with the storylines going on because well, we have to sell toys, we have to sell
Mhm.
this or that. Whereas a lot of the indie stuff is, hey, tell great stories, get people to buy the book because it helps us in the long run, and that way it gets your name out there.
I mean, even like I can't tell you for Valiant, and even just because I like for Valiant specifically, it has been constantly on top of my pull list as some of my favorite titles. Andy Diggle's Shadow Man is brilliant. Like
Shadow Man right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like
everyone
Shadow
needs
Man.
to be reading this book. And why aren't you reading this book? The artwork's beautiful. Andy Diggle has fun, and it's a great book.
I want to put this out there right now, guys.
He's gonna toot his horn.
No, I really love both of you because it's nice to finally be not the only person in the store. Be like, yeah, Valiant.
Yeah.
Well, to give the indie companies credit where it's due, they do have that luxury of being independent because their characters aren't as mainstream, and if what you were referencing before about like Bruce has to be Batman, they're always going to have the status quo, and that's where the stereotype comes in that nobody stays dead in comics, because of the fact that we can't let anybody else be Batman except Bruce, because everybody knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman. If little Timmy grows up to be a 20-year-old man and he wants to buy his first Batman comic and he picks it up and Damian Wayne is Batman at this point, he's going to be like, what happened to Bruce? We gotta reference it. We gotta tell somebody where he is every issue until he comes back at some point. I wouldn't have an issue if they went like a while without Bruce. I want them to do what they did with Barry back in the day, but that might be my personal bias.
Again, but that's another big thing too, which is really great about a lot of the indie books is that especially Valiant. I mean, Valiant, one of their mandates is, listen, like if we kill a character, they're dead. We're not taking it lightly. We're not, what?
Didn't they bring back though? You had me read Harbinger War #1. Okay. Firestarter, what was her name?
Flamingo?
Yeah, didn't she bid it?
Flamingo?
Okay. Isn't she back though for Harbinger Wars 2? Because I could have sworn I saw a cover with her in it.
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay. I'm legitimately asking.
I haven't read the event yet. I'm waiting for the event to finish.
Oh, okay.
But I don't believe so. Flamingo, as far as I know, Flamingo is gone.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
She did.
She burned.
She did. Yeah.
She did.
But again, like it's even like you have a lot of that across the indies. I mean, there's characters who've died in the Mignola verse for Dark Horse, which is all the Hellboy stuff. And I mean, it's usually pretty solid. I mean, they can do whatever they want with their characters. I mean, yeah, they can also bring them back as well, but you're going to see more consistency as far as, they're not just killing a character as a gimmick and then bringing them back as a gimmick
12 months later.
Yeah. I mean, there's
sometimes 2 years.
There's a lot more at stake for them. They don't have, Marvel is Marvel. So you got people who are like, hey, I'm a Spider-Man fan, so I'm going to read Spider-Man. And if they killed Peter and then they bring him back, like they're still going to read Spider-Man.
Still a tough subject for you, huh?
Spider-Man fan.
Listen, Eddie, stop touching me. What is wrong with you?
You're the most precious thing in the world to us, Devin.
I really
love you.
Hate the both of you. No. So that's the thing is, you.
Okay, I'm done now. I'll stop. I promise.
You have a lot of that, and it's more at stake when you go to kill a character in the indie books because. Especially like, for example, like I said, Valiant keeps their line very tight and very small. Like, they usually don't exceed 10 books, more than 10 titles a month. So for them to sit there and say, hey, we're going to kill a character, one of those characters is probably a star of one of their books. So they have to really be sure this is what they're going to do, because there's also a good chance they won't get back to that character for a long time if they do that. And it's more of a I won't say real world setting because obviously it's a comic book.
Yeah, but there's a certain thing with comic books and even like Marvel and DC. that you kind of look at and you're like, okay, this couldn't be possible, or okay, I kind of get where you're going.
Yeah. I mean, there's more of a realism. There's a little bit more grounded as
Mhm.
far as the human interaction. You know, there's a lot more of the human element, and a lot, at least again in the Valiant stuff. A lot of the other indies, you know, again, it's all depends on your taste in comics and genre.
Mhm.
I mean, so
You want me to get that?
no, I will get it. I will be right back. Please
Okay.
hold.
Did you want to
You
leave us with the topic? or
We'll,
we can continue
we
talking about
can
indies.
we can answer some fan questions.
Oh, are there any fan questions?
We should be wrapping up soon anyway, shortly after you get back.
Okay.
We are running a little over an hour.
Hey, Devin, knock, knock. Okay.
Who's there?
We got nothing.
We got nothing for
So-
questions. Ask us questions now.
Well, okay,
Matt will monitor the chat. Let us know, Matt, when there's questions.
So while we're doing that,
hmm
what indie books other than Valiant, if any, are you reading right now?
Right now, in terms of indie, I'm just reading Shadow Man and Quantum and Woody. Are they both? They're both the same company, aren't they?
Yeah, those are
Are you about to plug?
yes, those are Valiant. Oh yeah, I'm
Oh,
totally plugging.
I expected
I'm
that plug.
totally
I
plugging.
totally expected that plug.
So because we're on the topic of indie comic books,
Yes, we're gonna.
yeah,
let's
we're
let's
gonna
take up his
exclude
spot.
Devin.
Oh yeah, he's
gone
gonna be
now.
really pissed.
Devin has been removed from the podcast.
Devin,
It's now the
unfortunately.
Stephen and Will show. No, I'm kidding. But no, with indie books, and I apologize. I keep like looking over here because I'm having a conversation with you, and it's weird for me to look like
You don't
right.
have to look straight at the
I
camera.
know, but
I,
it's so
when
weird.
Devin's talking,
I
I'm
do
looking
too.
straight at him.
Okay.
It's instinct. Like it's kind of weird to
It
just
is.
talking to the camera.
So, anywho, when it comes to indie books, I tend to like my bad girl comics, and for a long time, you know, exactly no, for long, I don't even know what that was. For long
No.
time comic book people that know what that term is,
hmm
great, you're gonna know it. If there are any young listeners, ask your parents first if you can Google it.
Okay.
But one of the safer bad girl comics, I'm gonna just product placement. What?
It's backwards, so it's for
Yeah,
those
it
of
does
you.
say Red Sonja.
Okay.
Amy Chu does a really fantastic job of taking this semi kind of back-ended character that might have lost relevance over the years and actually bringing her to the forefront. Very much how Gail Simone did it as well. Amy Chu does it more in a fun manner, though.
Mhm.
Hold, please. I have a question.
Do we have a
What do
question?
you guys like more, DC or Marvel? So what do we like more currently, DC or Marvel, when it comes to storylines?
Storyline. I guess I don't have like much of a. I read more DC, so I'd say like there are definitely more cons to DC because of more pros and more cons because I've read more DC than I have Marvel, and I haven't really like I'd say the worst thing right now I've read out of Marvel. I'm reading a lot of the Infinity Countdown stuff, and like I'm not interested at all in what's happening with a Darkhawk. Like it's just
Yeah, but did you read that Black Widow book?
yes, I
That
did.
was fun.
That was nuts. That was cool
just,
though.
That was like an absurdly fun book, and that's
Yeah.
what we need out of a Natasha book.
yeah.
Just to be fun and kind of silly, but go somewhere.
I'd say I like some of the DC stuff. I'm not super excited about the new event coming up with the main characters being Harley Quinn, whom, if you know me, you know I feel is a very overused and overdone character.
You're talking
But
about Hero Crisis.
yes, Hero Crisis, the new event coming
Written
out.
by Tom King, which means it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm assuming, I'm hoping, I'm debating on whether or not to pick it up. I know Tom King. I like Tom King stuff. I've read his Batman from the beginning. So I do it. I'm hoping for a good event. I like Booster Gold. I like his character. I've always liked him. I've always enjoyed his stuff. Did the person on the phone tattle on us? Who is it?
We were waiting for you. Anyway,
All right, but yeah, the Marvel stuff, all I'm reading right now is really good stuff. So I'd recommend Marvel right now, like Avengers. I'm excited for the Cap stuff that's actually coming out today. So come to the store.
There
Come
was
to
an
the
awkward
store.
Gap between us.
Come to the store in a half an hour.
Is
and-
it really?
and-
Oh,
yeah.
seat's not even
That's
cold,
why
and
I'm-
You both just jump right in the middle. Like, geez.
I've also.
That's why I'm
product
saying we should
placement
wrap up
something.
soon
We're
because
gonna-
it's a half an hour in and we're a little over an hour anyway.
Yeah, well,
We should definitely like
What did I,
maybe take like
We
one
had-
more
oh,
question.
Well, no, we did have
We
a
did.
question.
Yeah. Do you prefer Marvel or DC? Which I was
right
getting.
now. What do you prefer?
Yeah.
Wow. That is kind of a loaded question. I guess it's really
In terms of storytelling,
Storytelling currently, right
Currently,
now,
yeah.
at this moment.
who has more good books?
again. That's a big. I mean, I guess you're asking my opinion on it.
Yeah.
I think the tide shifts between DC and Marvel. Like DC had it for a while. Whenever they were doing Rebirth, that was them, and Marvel was on the low point. But now Marvel's bringing it back, and DC's kind of like.
I think in my personal opinion, I've always felt that Marvel has had a tighter grasp on their storytelling in terms of, they're always willing to persevere. They're always willing to keep going with what's happening in the universe. Because even though there's bad storylines and there's bad things that have happened to some of the characters, they always come back around and like, okay, we have to roll with it. We have to just hit the ground running and see where we go. Whereas I feel DC's always kind of lacked a little bit in that regard, because their first idea is, oh wow, it's not working, everyone hates us, let's reboot and start at zero. And then
love
it's like,
zero
okay,
issues,
then so
though.
then you have to build everything back up again.
Mhm.
Whereas Marvel's kind of like, okay, we know we have 70 plus years of the character people love. We know what people love about Cap. We know what people love about Tony Stark. So let's go. Hey, what were those really great best-selling stories we did? All right, let's go back to that. Whereas DC's like, we want people to love us. Like, love us now. Let's start fresh. Get all those new readers on board. But at the same time, you're burning all the old readers. As far as questions go, we actually did have a question that I do think is pertinent to address.
Was that what the phone call was?
That was what the phone call
Oh
was.
my God, that's how we should actually do that.
Call the store.
No, that's brilliant. You can just pick up. That way you're not complaining about us like replacing you.
Oh well, you didn't replace me. Who did you replace me with?
Well, we didn't
That will be for
replace you.
next
We were
week.
just. Oh, that's a question.
Just jump
Check
right
out next week.
So one of the questions is, how we feel in terms of, do we think that companies, namely indie companies, are doing better because they're just worried about telling good stories and sticking with their characters rather than what the big two are doing, which has been a lot of, as the caller put it, pandering in terms of, we just want to get more eyes on the books. We're not worried about telling good stories. We just want a character that everyone can relate to, whether or not the story and art are good.
So the call is referring to the indie books, the indie companies, about their good storytelling standpoint.
Well, no, it's the fact that Marvel and DC have a habit of, we're going to create a character because we want, we just want people to. We want more people looking at our books, so we're gonna.
So, are you talking about the inclusion aspect of it? Like,
Yeah.
everybody's different.
Yeah, well, no, it's just like, for example, let's talk about. So we have we have Riri.
Oh, I
Riri.
do love me some Riri.
You have Riri, who is a character that was kind of just. She felt so shoehorned in. Now, don't get me wrong, the character is a fun character, at the end of the day. But it was a character who was they created her for the sole purpose of, we want more of a young female demographic, and we also want more of an African American demographic.
It's just demographic It's just pandering. It's just pandering at this point.
Whereas and that's the thing though, and that's what the caller had mentioned. Hey, do we feel that Marvel and DC are suffering from pandering by creating characters for the sake of creating, getting more demographics, whereas like the indie companies are, hey, we just have to focus on telling good stories, good books. We want the right creative teams for the sake of the right creative teams, not because certain websites, no names will be mentioned, are doing polls every week of, hey, how many female writers wrote comics this week? Or, how many female directors are there in the movies getting released this week?
Well, yeah, that's that in of itself. Like, you shouldn't just get a job just because we need more of people who look or sound or are shaped just like you. We should hire you because you're good. But in that aspect, DC, I don't feel has done it as much, because that Marvel had like their all new all inclusive like phase where everybody was
Was
just
it all new,
just
all different?
all
Yes,
new.
all-
Yes.
Oh, okay. You're like all new, all inclusive, and I'm like, what is that?
That was a play on words.
Oh, okay.
You see it, but with DC,
Thanks.
You
What
see
time are we
it
at?
more in.
Okay.
I mean, you've even brought it up to me. You've seen it more in the television aspect of it. I mean,
Oh, well,
what
yeah.
was the character? What was the character they just put on Legends of Tomorrow just because?
The Zari or Ari or something, she was put on because DC has a couple of Muslim characters. I know Simon Baz I know like Green Lantern's like a really budgety character to do, but they created this character and she's just a Muslim woman, and that's because of the presidency. And she's just there for that. That's her main reason for being there. And it's like, where's the good storytelling? Half the cast on that show is they're like original characters that are just created just so that there's a whole diverse world of DC, but you have to make these new characters just because.
I think one of the big things, because we have another question before this is going to be our last question. We're
Okay.
going to wrap up after this. But to Will's point, I think we can all agree that it's more important telling. It's more important telling good stories with the right teams on them, because they're the right teams to tell those stories, and because the stories are interesting enough to tell, not because, hey, we need to get more, we have to get these people looking at our books or those people or things like that. But Steve, the next question, the last question.
So
Last question.
I'm answering actually two. The one I'm answering myself, I'm sorry. The one is Red Sonja versus He-Man. Red Sonja all the way. She's just gonna beat him to a bloody pulp. The real question, you don't get my opinion's the only one that matters for that.
Well, yeah, I don't
know.
know either of the characters
I mean,
that well.
Wait, but she doesn't have the power of Grayskull.
Yeah, and he doesn't have it until he throws the sword up in the air and says, like, "Eye of Thundera."
Whoa, no, but you're. But
I thought he said,
Thunder
"I have the power."
I know, I said "Eye of Thundera." I don't know why.
No, but the question is He-Man versus Red Sonja, not Prince. What's his name? Prince.
Exactly.
So at this point,
That
I'm
is
assuming
actually
in
a real
this.
good question though.
Okay, what's the real good?
Okay, the real good question was asked. I don't remember by who. Do you ever think that there will be a DC or Marvel crossover in the near future?
Yes.
And
yes,
if
I
so, feelings. So
do. Okay.
Devin?
All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
let
should go
Devin
first.
go.
Okay.
Before you like explode on this,
Get ready.
I don't know. I think that there's a good possibility. I think there's still too many people in the upper management of both companies that are going to prevent it from happening. I mean, I know a lot of writers and artists really want to do it, but they are.
okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I don't think it will. I know for a long time, one of the biggest things was when Joe Quesada was editor in chief, and Jimmy Palmiotti went over to DC.
Oh, Jimmy!
That was one of the big things. Was because of their clash. It wasn't ever going to happen because DC editorial was really in favor of Palmiotti, and it was just never going to happen between the two companies. Right now, I don't know. I think it's still there's still some of the same climate going on, especially with certain writers leaving to go to either respective company. It's happened a lot the last couple of years, so I think it's only time will tell. I think that if it does happen, they really got to bring their A game. They really have to have their two best artists and their two best writers. Again, it's one of those things that you can't have it half-assed. You can't have, hey, we're gonna have just a bunch of random writers and artists doing a crossover, and they're all just gonna be one shots. we have to have an actual real story to tell.
I can tell you, I don't want like this big epic event. If you're doing it, do it as like a 3-4 part mini.
Well,
put
that's what they
some
did with the last
characters-
one.
But that's what I'm saying. Put some characters together. Don't do this full blown like what was that big one they did in the 90s? What was it called?
The Amalgam Universe.
Yes. Don't do that. Like don't.
No, they're never gonna do that again because that was Garbo to do that one last
Oh
time
my
before
god,
we
that's
left.
the last one, Garbo.
Hey, Dark Claw was where it was at.
I was
Oh
gonna
my
say I
God.
loved me some Dark
Where it
Claw.
was at.
Okay.
Doctor Strange Fate.
Doctor
Oh,
Strange
oh,
Fate.
yes.
Was that
Dr.
actually his name?
Yes, it was
Oh, that's
Doctor
amazing.
What
Strange.
was the Moon Knight one? What was the
Oh, I
Moon
can't
Knight?
remember.
All
All right. Well, anyway,
It was like Moonwing, wasn't it? Because it was a combination of Moon Knight and Nightwing.
they did.
I think it was
Yes.
Moonwing.
Really? That was
I
the.
think it was Moon or Night.
Yeah, they did do some really
Whatever.
like they did like
Night
Storm
Moon?
and
Oh,
Wonder
maybe
Woman. It
Night
was some
Moon.
really weird
Yeah, but
combinations.
Storm and Wonder Woman was easy. She was just like the Amazon.
Okay.
That's all she was.
Okay,
Yeah.
The Amazon.
No, but yeah, again, like I agree. I don't want a big
No,
crossover event
God,
where
no.
it's like I don't. It can't matter. It can't matter in
Mhm.
respect of both universes.
What are you getting?
Can
Nothing?
you hear me
No,
now?
no, like sometimes when you guys are talking, like I barely can hear Devin sometimes.
Can you hear me now? Am I good?
Yeah,
Am I
mean,
good?
you probably have to turn it up a little bit more.
Can you hear me now? Is that better? Is that better?
Maybe it's
Okay.
because our mics dominate that one because that one's older.
Okay, well, in any case, so yeah, I mean that's the thing. It can't count. It can't. It has to be like an
No,
Elseworld story. It has to be something that's just fun.
Yeah, that's what was really good about the most recent one they did, the JLA Avengers one. It was the two teams, they went at it. It's not really canon, especially not now anymore because DC rebooted. So the Marvel characters might remember it, but they don't bring it up ever. And the DC definitely don't remember it because it already got rebooted afterwards. Because it was like that was the last event they did, to my knowledge. I think they did a couple like solo characters, like one-on-one crossovers afterwards. But yeah, they're very willing to go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
The Shadow and Batman.
The Shadow and Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the main point that I say it's first because they were hinting to it a little bit because the writers of Justice League and Avengers know each other. Justice League being Scott Snyder, and who writes Avengers right now?
Jason Aaron.
Jason Aaron. They know each other. When Scott found out that Jason was writing Avengers, he tweeted at him and was like, "Let's do a crossover." And that's my main focus point for proof. And the companies were kind of like, "Oh, maybe, oh, I don't know, maybe." It was, but it's something that I
Can we just
want.
stop for a second and address your drunk Bane Tom Hardy voice? Like,
You're just like you have so many voices.
you do. It's great. You're like you're like Phil Lamar.
Phil Lamar. I'm the Phil Lamar of this.
Yes, you are.
Podcast.
You're the who was the guy from
Phil
Police
Lamar.
Academy that did all the voices?
You're gonna hit me. I don't think I've ever seen like all the Police Academy.
You have to see all of them, just the one, just the
I don't
first
know if
one.
I saw that.
But Phil Lamar, I get that
Anyway.
reference. Yeah.
Yes. So
But that tease was there, and that's my only point of proof. Yes, a couple of the big wigs up there I heard don't care for it, but I think he means straight towards your face because it will pick up more if the mic's pointed at you,
just like that, like
just right in front of your face, just right,
in
here,
front, right there.
right here,
Right
If it's
there.
just
Right.
pointed at you. Okay.
Is it a good distance? Is it not?
That's a
too
pretty
far,
well
too close?
distance.
What?
I can't play. this
Yeah.
game with you. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Well, listen.
Okay,
We I think we've addressed.
Yeah, we've addressed everything. Do we want to do a book recommendations? Just say what's cool. What do you like right now? Just a couple books you'd
Just
recommend to our readers.
one of everything. No,
Not biased because he's the manager of the store.
No, not at all. I don't. Yes, no. One of them.
There's the owner, and then there's the manager.
Yeah, but
Mike's the owner. He's the
Yeah.
manager.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
you two were like, well, never mind.
What is wrong with? Anyway, so
Yeah, we're
The,
wrapping it up, Mike.
we're-
Matt.
Mike, who are you talking
I'm
to?
hooked on it.
Okay, so yes, I would recommend, as of right now, probably one of my biggest recommendations would be anything out of the Black Hammer verse from Jeff Lemire from Dark Horse. I think that's probably some of the best storytelling going on right now, as far as something very like, even though it's an expanded universe with multiple books, it's still pretty self-contained. They're short 4-issue minis. Definitely something to check out.
I definitely recommend Avengers. Like I've brought up that book a lot. It's good to check in especially if you like the original Marvel characters: Captain America, Iron Man, Black Panther, Doc Strange, Captain Marvel, formerly Miss Marvel. They're all there, and they're doing like stuff. It's a really good lineup, and it's been there's only 3 issues, so there's not a lot to catch up on. You can just grab them real quick and go out. Green Arrow I like a lot. And what else is good? And from an indie standpoint, I'd say Quantum and Woody and Shadow Man. Those are my 2 top indie picks. This is the only books I've been picking up. I'm only recently getting into the indie stuff, but yeah, that's
he'll be reading more. He'll have more opinions later.
Oh my god!
Later on, he'll be reading a lot.
You'll get
more.
to see my progression as the podcast goes on.
All right, Steve, what do you got? What's the go-to book for you?
If we're doing indie, love me some Bad Girl comics, Vampirella Roses for the Dead. The artwork's pretty. It's an absurd book. It's just a lot of fun. If we're doing mainstream, really loving The Punisher right now.
I've heard really good things about that.
So
With him with the War Machine armor.
Yeah. And Marvel's doing a lot of fun things with miniseries. The New Mutants miniseries is a blast.
DC's doing something similar. That's another book I'd recommend. The Mr. Miracle miniseries that's right now. Oh, that is so good. That's another Tom King book. Mr. Miracle. Pick it up. It's only going to be 12 issues. They're almost at the end, I think, right? They have 2 more issues. Just 12. Just pick it up.
As far as mainstream goes, we're talking DC. I cannot stress enough. Please, Batman by Tom King.
Oh, it's so good.
I know all the stuff that's going on, all the things that got spoiled. A lot of people are upset, but he's still a good writer. He's still a great writer. He's doing a great job with the character. He has more stuff planned for the next couple of years. I cannot stress enough. Please keep reading if you are reading. And if you haven't started reading, start picking up. But Marvel. Marvel has a lot of really cool stuff. Avengers definitely. I'm gonna second Will on that. Avengers.
Anything Infinity Countdown has been really good. The new
Infinity Countdown, yeah. One of the
you get to see Drax play saxophone. That's pretty sick.
That's kind of a spoiler.
I didn't say what he does with it.
Because you're
Yeah. I didn't say what happens, what leads up to it, what happens after he does it. So.
Another book that you just have to pick up because we have not had a fantastic Catwoman book in a long time is the new Catwoman book.
You don't even know if it's good yet.
Yeah,
we haven't even read it.
Number 1 just came.
What more do I need?
We'll find out next week whether or not it's actually good.
Next time on the October Country podcast. Next time. Yes, we.
All right. I'm Will.
I'm Devin.
Steven.
All right, and this has been the October Country Comics podcast. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
You upset that, Devin?
I guess.
No, but I was trying to establish an
he just-
outro
he
so
just-
that we know
we're
next
gonna
time.
That was
All right,
beautiful.
cut it.
All right, cut it. We're done. We're
Yeah.
done. All right. We're not gonna do that thing where we just leave it up and people just watch us do
are we
stupid.
done? Like-
Why?